Hello, Chillify, I'm ready. When the sponsors came to choose someone, my sister locked me in the equipment room. She waited until she was chosen by the Jiang family, just as she wished, before releasing me. Sister, leave the good fortune of the Ha family to me. In her previous life, she saw how wealthy the Ha family was and dreamed of marrying into them. But the Ha family was nothing special. They only saw her as a backup blood source. I, on the other hand, was adopted by the Jiang family, even having my own private house. Enraged, she brought a canister of gasoline to my house, wanting us both to burn to death. After reliving this life, she immediately chose the Jiang family. I smiled. So what if I'm a backup blood source? The Jiang family is the one that truly devours people. My ability to survive everything there was thanks to my own strength. She could just pray for her own blessings. Clara Tran forcefully pushed me into the equipment room, quickly closing and locking the door from the outside. I cried, banging on the door, pleading, "Clara, I beg you, please let me out. The sponsors are arriving soon. I want to go to the Jiang family. Can't you just let me out?" She snorted, her voice filled with glee. "So you finally realize the Jiang family is the better option, sister? This life, you can have the Ha family's blessings. I'll choose the Jiang family." Her footsteps faded away. I lifted my head, the pleading and anguish vanishing from my face. A small smile played on my lips. Clara Tran had indeed relived this life, and this time, she didn't hesitate to choose the Jiang family. In her previous life, Clara Tran saw that the Ha family was wealthier than the Jiang family, and their son, Henry Ha, was also in our grade. She didn't hesitate to put herself forward to be chosen by the Ha family, but her dream of a prestigious marriage crumbled. The Ha family only saw her as a backup blood source for Henry, tormenting her repeatedly. Their private doctor drew her blood, her body growing weaker day by day. Then she was forced to sign organ donation papers. Even her own organs were no longer hers. Finally, she broke down, escaping the Ha family and coming to find me, only to see me living a good life, well cared for by the Jiang family, even having my own house. She was filled with resentment and envy, demanding, "Why do you live better than me? Did you know about the Ha family's schemes all along and purposely let me choose them?" Yet it was she who had eagerly chosen the Ha family, even threatening me that if I dared to compete, she wouldn't let me off. She suddenly went berserk, dousing me with a can of gasoline and setting me on fire. To prevent me from escaping and seeking help, she embraced me tightly. "Anyway, my life is ruined by the Ha family this time. Don't even dream of living well. Let's die together." We both burned in the raging fire, struggling between life and death. I sat silently in the equipment room, counting down the time. By now, Clara Tran must have been chosen by the Jiang family as their sponsored child. Afraid that I wouldn't join the Ha family and endure torment, she would surely bring the Ha family to find me. The equipment room door opened, and Clara Tran rushed in, embracing me tightly. "Sister, I've been looking for you everywhere. I thought something happened to you. Luckily, a classmate saw you heading this way. Are you okay?" Outside stood a couple and our deputy principal. Clara Tran spoke to the couple, "Mr. and Mrs. Ha, this is my sister. She's an excellent student, achieving the 3 good student title. She perfectly fits the criteria you're looking for in a sponsor." The Ha couple looked kind and nodded in satisfaction. "Then the Ha family will sponsor your sister." Clara Tran smiled delightedly. She leaned closer to my ear, whispering just loud enough for only us to hear, "Sister, I'm so jealous of you. The Ha family is so wealthy, and Henry is even in our school. If you get close to him, who knows, you might even marry into a prestigious family." She deliberately provoked me, gloatingly suggesting I approach Henry, hoping I would repeat the suffering she endured in her previous life. I smiled nonchalantly, betraying no emotion. What's wrong with being a backup blood source? From what I know, the Ha family didn't use Clara Tran's blood right from the start. At least throughout her senior year, they treated her like a real young lady of the Ha family. It was she who became lost in that illusion, truly believing herself to be a young lady, and ultimately ruined herself. She failed the college entrance exam and lacked survival skills, so she could only continue to cling to the Ha family. Thus, her fate was like a fish on a chopping block, left to be carved up. And yet, she foolishly believed that my good life in the previous life was all thanks to the kindness of the Jiang couple. How ridiculous. The Jiang family is the most ruthless place of all. She should just look out for herself. I smiled obediently and said to Clara Tran, "Thank you, little sister." But I didn't follow her hints, nor did I approach Henry. Clara Tran looked displeased. The moment I entered the classroom, I saw her whispering to some girls. As soon as she saw me, she fell silent. During break time, when I went to the restroom, someone suddenly grabbed my hair from behind. You think just because the Ha family sponsored you, you can climb up to Henry Ha? A pauper like you doesn't deserve it. Unfortunately, Henry Ha had both good family background and handsome looks, always ranking in the top 3 academically, and had a weak constitution. This meant countless female fans always wanted to protect and sympathize with him. In her previous life, Clara Tran was bullied by those fanatical girls when she openly pursued Henry. This time, perhaps seeing me live peacefully, she was unwilling, so she spread rumors that I liked Henry, deliberately stirring up trouble. Lisa Lam said this while trying to force my head into the sink. I immediately retaliated, swatting her hand away, grabbing her hair, and without a word, pressed her head into the basin of water. Do you enjoy bullying others so much? Lisa Lam gurgled incomprehensibly in the water. At first, she struggled violently, but then gradually weakened. Seeing that enough time had passed and my goal wasn't to kill, I pulled her head up. I'll only say this once. I have no interest in your Henry Ha. Don't bother me again. I glanced at Lisa Lam's friends. They all subconsciously took a step back. Only then did I release her. When I returned to class, Clara Tran was busy reapplying her makeup. Seeing me return unharmed, she seemed a little surprised. Didn't you go to the restroom, sister? I calmly spread my test papers on the desk. Is something wrong? She hesitated. No, nothing. My gaze turned cold. In her previous life, she had ruined me terribly. In this life, she still wasn't going to spare me, hoping I would live miserably for her amusement. If so, she shouldn't blame me for being impolite. From then on, every day during a fixed class, I would take my thermos to get water. Each floor had a hot water dispenser, and it wasn't far from the classroom, usually taking only 2 or 3 minutes. But I always took exactly 10 minutes during break time and only returned when the bell for the next class rang. A regularly repeated action. The timing was a bit strange, coupled with my bashful expression upon returning a few days later, made Clara Tran suspicious. Today, when I again left the classroom with my thermos, she secretly followed, keeping a suitable distance. I pretended not to notice, went from the 3rd floor down to the 2nd, then from one end to the other, finally stopping in front of a classroom. My gaze was fixed intently on a spot inside the classroom, feigning fascination. Clara Tran quietly approached me from behind, thinking I was unaware. I happily continued my pretense. Suddenly, she grabbed my shoulder. I heard you say you didn't like Henry Ha, but it turns out you have your eye on Daniel Ngo, the top student in the entire grade. I quickly pulled her aside, my face full of worry. It's just that I see he's always number 1, he's really brilliant. I only admire him. Please don't tell anyone. Clara Tran rolled her eyes, naturally unwilling to let this happen. If I didn't like Henry Ha, those fanatical girls would have no excuse to bully me. My school life would be even more pleasant. The Ha family, after I graduated high school, would only take me in as a blood donor. So she advised me, sister, don't blame me for not warning you. Don't think Daniel Ngo is good just because he's smart. Both his parents are addicted to gambling. What do you think, growing up in such a family, will his heart be normal? I raised an eyebrow slightly. The first part of the story about Daniel Ngo seemed plausible. All fabricated, she thought I knew nothing and wanted to make up stories to deceive me. But the latter half was indeed true. Daniel Ngo's psychology was indeed abnormal, even terrifyingly perverse. Because in the previous life, he had tortured me to the brink of death. I pretended to be panicked and covered her mouth. Don't talk about Daniel Ngo like that. His parents won't be happy. As soon as the Jiang family was mentioned, Clara Tran immediately showed great interest. Is Daniel Ngo related to the Jiang family? I lowered my head, my fingers fiddling with my shirt hem, looking troubled. I just happened to find out, I don't know if I should say. Sister, Clara Tran began to play soft. Now that the Jiang family sponsors me, I'm practically half a family member. I should know their affairs, right? All right, but I told you, don't tell anyone, okay? Clara Tran's eyes flashed with cunning calculation. I will definitely keep it a secret. I leaned in and whispered a sentence into her ear. Clara Tran paused, then her eyes lit up with joy. My lips curled into a silent smile. The fish had taken the bait. Today during break time, Diana Tran, went downstairs to get water. Clara Tran hurried after me, intimately linking her arm with mine. Sister, I'll go get water with you, okay? Today she was especially beautifully made up and even wore perfume. I suppressed my emotions and quietly replied, okay. As we descended the stairs, Clara Tran's eyes kept darting towards Daniel and Go's classroom. Daniel and Go's seat was empty. She looked visibly disappointed. From the corner of my eye, I saw Daniel and Go walking in the opposite hallway, but Clara Tran didn't notice, only staring intently into the classroom. I then pretended to accidentally bump Clara Tran's water bottle. Sorry, I wasn't paying attention. She glared at me annoyedly, irritated that she hadn't seen Daniel and Go. I bent down to help pick it up, gently saying, "I'm so sorry." Just then, Clara Tran finally saw Daniel and Go at the other end of the hallway, her eyes lit up. Then she suddenly pushed me hard. "Aha, so you were secretly going to meet Daniel and Go, weren't you?" I was shoved hard. The back of my head hit the wall, leaving me dizzy, but Clara Tran paid no attention, rushing towards Daniel and Go. She deliberately, accidentally, bumped into him, then looked up with a pitiful gaze. "Sorry." Daniel and Go politely helped her up, a refined smile on his face. "Be careful." But between his eyebrows, annoyance and disgust were hidden. Of course, Clara Tran didn't notice. She happily turned back, her eyes sparkling with infatuation. Daniel and Go is not only handsome but also very polite. I secretly snorted in my heart. That's Daniel and Go for you. He's best at pretending. In front of others, he always maintains a perfect, courteous image. That's why in my previous life, when I told people how he tortured me, no one believed me. They thought I was crazy. If Clara Tran likes him so much, then she can just be with him. I said nothing, just lowered my head and rubbed the throbbing pain at the back of my neck. Clara Tran continued to daydream. I should have introduced myself just now. Oh well, there'll be another chance. He must remember me this time. She suddenly fell silent as she saw Daniel and Go enter the classroom, take off the uniform jacket she had just bumped into, and throw it straight into the trash. His eyes were cold. Clara Tran's expression froze, the smile on her lips slowly fading. She turned and ran back into the classroom. She sat with her head down all morning, saying nothing. By the time school ended, she must have been even more furious as she cleared her desk, slamming things around. I concealed my emotions and gently comforted her. "Don't be angry, Daniel and Go wasn't targeting you. He's like that with everyone. He has an obsession with cleanliness." Clara Tran immediately stopped, narrowing her eyes at me. "How do you know?" I stammered like a quail. I just heard people say." She rolled her eyes, thought for a moment, then suddenly smiled sweetly. "Sister, you've been watching Daniel and Go for so long, you must know a lot about him, right?" I thought, of course I know. More than anyone, I know what he likes. I only hoped she would ask, but I had to take it step by step. "I know a little bit, but I probably can't help you much." She continued to smile brightly like a flower. "Whether it helps or not depends on the person using it. Just tell me, my good sister, my dear good sister." Only when it was beneficial was I her good sister. Otherwise, I was discarded like trash. But I was pleased because I was waiting for this exact moment. Every morning, Daniel and Go eats a matcha cake from Pin Xuan Bakery. This part was true. Daniel and Go had an extremely difficult temperament. His inherited genes were full of cruelty. Because he liked sweets, he had a habit of eating a piece of cake in the morning to curb his anger. After hearing this, Clara Tran's eyes lit up and she immediately picked up her bag and left. "Sister, can you help me clean my desk? Oh, today is my turn for cleaning duty. Please help me with that too." As soon as she achieved her goal, her attitude changed immediately. That was Clara Tran. I didn't resist because it wasn't the time yet. In the future, she would have to pay the price herself. For the next week, Clara Tran came very early every day. I was usually the first in class to study, but this week, Clara Tran arrived almost at the same time as me, just to bring cake to Daniel and Go. As soon as she arrived in class, she would lie down and sleep, saying she was sleeping to preserve her beauty. 2 weeks passed like this. During break time, as soon as the bell rang, Clara Tran immediately stood up, grabbed her water bottle, and ran downstairs. I also took my water bottle and leisurely followed. When I arrived, I saw her standing at Daniel and Go's classroom door, smiling radiantly. Soon after, Daniel and Go stood up and walked towards her. I heard him ask, "Did you bring this cake?" Clara Tran blushed and nodded. "It's delicious, thank you." Just then, someone with a ball ran into the classroom. Excuse me. The entrance was narrow, so they bumped into Clara Tran slightly, but it was just a light bump, enough to send her tumbling into Daniel and Go. Daniel and Go didn't avoid her. In that instant, his eyes showed a familiar emotion, the look of a predator seeing its prey. On her way back, Clara Tran deliberately lingered, looking into the classroom. Seeing that Daniel and Go hadn't thrown away his jacket this time, she pressed her lips together in a radiant smile, humming as she walked back to class. As soon as she sat down, she couldn't help but boast to me. "I told you, whether a trick works depends on the user." I just replied indifferently, lowering my head to continue my work, because I knew Daniel and Go wasn't so easily lured. Indeed, the next day during physical education break, Clara Tran, seemingly wanting to flaunt her close relationship with Daniel and Go, approached him to strike up a conversation under everyone's gaze. "Daniel and Go, I heard you're very smart. I got a bad grade on the last math test. Could you tutor me after school?" Compared to the last time when he still smiled politely, this time Daniel and Go didn't even bother to look at her, merely throwing back 3 words, "No time," and walking straight past her. Clara Tran stood rooted to the spot, returning to class silently, tearing up her math test, then burying her face in her desk, her shoulders trembling slightly as if she was crying. I said nothing, continuing my work. This was Daniel and Go's way of baiting, reeling in and then pulling back, making people unable to break free, wanting to get closer to him more and more. By the time school ended, the classroom was nearly empty. Clara Tran finally sat up, her eyes red, clearly having cried. "What else does Daniel and Go like? Tell me, sister, you've watched him for so long, you must know more than me." In her eyes now was an almost insane obsession. I knew she couldn't break free anymore, but I didn't answer, just quietly packed my books and left. "Hey, Diana, I'm asking you." She rushed over, grabbing my bag. I was forced to stop. Trying to hide the annoyance in my eyes, I looked up with a vague, helpless expression. "Don't ask anymore, you can't do it." Clara Tran immediately became competitive. Her grip on my bag tightened and her voice grew louder. "Why can't I do it? You just don't want me to pursue Daniel and Go, do you? You want to keep him for yourself, right?" I saw someone walking through the hallway, so I raised my hand and delivered a sharp slap to her face. Half of her face immediately swelled red, blood oozing from the corner of her lips, a cut visible. Clara Tran stared at me, stunned, unable to believe it. "Are you crazy, sister?" I shed my cold demeanor, trembling as I explained, "Daniel and Go is coming. Go out quickly, he'll like you." Hearing Daniel and Go's name, Clara Tran almost reflexively ran out into the hallway. I hid behind the curtains, watching her, eyes welling up with tears, tell Daniel and Go that she had been bullied by a friend. Daniel and Go slowly reached out and touched her swollen red cheek, gently stroking it. A strange excitement appeared in his eyes. The wildness within his genes was rejoicing. "You said you didn't do well on the math test? I'll tutor you." Daniel and Go wiped the blood from the corner of her mouth. From that day on, the relationship between Clara Tran and Daniel and Go progressed rapidly. Daniel and Go no longer pretended not to know her. He even actively tutored her every day after school. Some classmates, seeing this, gathered around, asking with gossip-filled voices, "Clara, you're really close with Daniel and Go lately, huh? Are you too?" Clara Tran only lowered her head and smiled, neither admitting nor denying. "I just want to improve my academic performance quickly. Other things are not convenient to discuss with you all. With Daniel and Go, the academic genius, tutoring me, it will definitely work out. Unlike some people who, no matter how hard they study, are still terrible, I really don't understand why the Ha family chose to sponsor you." Lisa Lamb sneered, clearly still holding a grudge about Henry Ha, occasionally targeting me. Only now she no longer dared to bully me openly as before. At most, she would whisper a few sarcastic remarks in my ear, which I didn't even bother to heed. My current academic performance wasn't particularly outstanding. I usually tried to maintain a middle position in the class rankings, because if I were too brilliant right now, it would easily attract attention, and I didn't want to be distracted by other things. I wanted to devote all my energy to studying. According to the timeline of my previous life, Henry Ha's health had not yet deteriorated, so the Ha family wasn't paying attention to me for now. They would try to meet all my needs until before the college entrance exam. Therefore, I had to make full use of all the resources the Ha family provided and strive to survive. My plan was clearly taking shape in my mind. At this point, Clara Tran again liked to play the role of the good person, speaking up for me. "No, my sister ranked 1 spot higher this time than before. That's progress." I always controlled my performance. Each exam only saw me improve by about 1 rank. As for her, despite being tutored by Daniel and Go, her mind wasn't on her studies, so her performance gradually declined with each exam. This time, for the monthly exam, as expected, her rank dropped again. In her previous life, she had become a good-for-nothing because she felt secure with the Ha family's sponsorship. In this life, she sought every way to approach Daniel and Go to marry him, neglecting her studies. After the crowd dispersed, seeing my scores 8 ranks higher than hers, Clara Tran immediately changed her expression, sneering, "So what if your grades are good? You won't live long after graduation anyway." It was the same in her previous life. She spent 3 years of high school carefree, and as soon as she graduated, the Ha family treated her as a backup blood source. She lived the rest of her life in tragedy, so she thought I would have the same outcome. I pretended not to understand the hidden meaning, innocently asking, "Why won't I live long?" "Can't tell you clearly." She didn't bother to explain, took out her mirror to reapply lipstick, then ran off to find Daniel and Go. But her happiness didn't last long. A month later, she returned to class in tears. This situation was even worse than before. She spent 3 days lying face down on her desk, crying. Occasionally, she would sit up, and tears would stream down. Worse still, her midterm exam scores were too low. She was called to the principal's office and scolded, returning with a face as pale as if her soul had left her body. After a while, she stared at me, making me look up from my test paper and ask, "What's wrong?" Her eyes were swollen like steamed buns from crying too much. "How were you so sure back then that Daniel and Go would pay attention to me if I just got slapped?" I remained silent, avoiding her gaze. Seeing this, she went furious, grabbing my shoulder tightly. "You definitely know something, don't you? Tell me quickly." Yes, I knew. Daniel and Go in his previous life was an anomaly. He had no emotions for normal things. No joy, no anger, no sadness. He learned emotions from others. He didn't know how to smile when something happy happened, but being smart, he knew others would smile, so he smiled too, so as not to be seen as strange. He learned to live normally to integrate into society, but due to his violent nature, the only thing that truly excited him was gore and violence. Therefore, when Daniel and Go saw the blood at the corner of Clara Tran's lips and the red slap marks on her cheek, he felt excited. He viewed Clara Tran as a toy. I told Clara Tran that Daniel and Go was excited by violent images and recounted a few things he had done in his previous life, as if it was new information I had just learned. I once saw him torture a stray cat. He seemed very happy doing it. From then on, I guessed that maybe if you did something like that, he would pay attention. After hearing this, Clara Tran was stunned, her eyes clearly showing fear and hesitation. I also pretended to be as startled as she was. "I think Daniel and Go is really a bit scary. It's better if you don't get involved with him." Clara Tran seemed to snap out of her fear. She looked at me warily. "You want me to give up so you can have a chance, don't you, sister? Don't dream in broad daylight. Even if Daniel and Go doesn't choose me, it won't be you." With that, she grabbed her bag and left the classroom. Perhaps I had too many flashbacks during the day. That night, I dreamed of my previous life again. I dreamed about the Jiang family and Daniel and Go. The reason Clara Tran was so infatuated with Daniel and Go was because I once told her that Daniel and Go was the only son of the Jiang family. I knew these things because in my previous life, when I was imprisoned by the Jiang family and tortured by Daniel and Go, I witnessed everything firsthand. When Mrs. Jiang was pregnant with Daniel and Go, the Jiang family discovered a chromosomal issue with the fetus. However, Mrs. Jiang refused to abort. Knowing the child was a boy, the Jiang family was even more reluctant to give up. They spent money researching gene editing techniques abroad and chose a private hospital to perform it. From pregnancy to birth, Mrs. Jiang was cared for at that hospital until Daniel and Go was born. Before the age of 3, the Jiang family only thought he was naughtier than normal children. But at the age of 5, Daniel and Go personally dismembered the neighbor's dog, which made them realize the serious problem. From then on, he increasingly showed tendencies to torture animals. Any animal that came into contact with him died tragically. The Jiang family reluctantly hired a caregiver to look after him 24 hours a day, but after only one day, they found the caregiver's face peeled off and hung directly in front of their door. The body's whereabouts were unknown. Mrs. Jiang screamed in fear. Even Mr. Jiang, who was always decisive in the business world, turned pale. Daniel and Go stood there with a calm expression, as if nothing had happened, as if killing someone was just like squashing an ant. He even said, "I'm hungry, can I have dinner yet?" The death of the caregiver was concealed by the Jiang family. Mrs. Jiang was bedridden for 3 days, after which they took Daniel and Go back to the International Hospital for examination. The results showed no problems with the gene editing. The doctors were also at a loss. With no other options, the Jiang family sought out a renowned Feng Shui master. After examining Daniel and Go's birth chart, he advised them not to raise him in the Jiang household before he turned 18. And not to let anyone know the Jiang family had such a son. Before he came of age, they should provide for a girl. It might change his fate. Thus, in the previous life, the sponsored person was me. After the college entrance exam, the Jiang family immediately locked me up and gave Daniel and Go full discretion over me. He treated me as a toy, torturing me until I was covered in wounds, living a life worse than death. Ultimately, I had to cut off my own leg in front of him as a bargaining chip. That act of self-harm, that cruelty, intrigued him. Only then did he agree to release me for a year. I knew his words were true. A year later, he would definitely find every way to bring me back. So during that year, I didn't sleep, didn't rest, working desperately hard. I elevated myself to a position almost on par with the Jiang family. Thanks to my influence, Daniel and Go could no longer easily force me back as before. But it was Clara Tran's can of gasoline that ruined everything. I jolted awake, clutching my chest, gasping for breath. The pain of being tortured by Daniel and Go, the agony of amputating my own leg, the sensation of being burned alive by Clara Tran. All of it felt as if it was still present on my body. I drank a glass of cold water to calm myself. I vowed that in this life, I would never again endure the pain of my previous life, and I would make them pay. It seemed Clara Tran had begun to act. When she came to school today, her wrist was bandaged, and bloodstains were visible on it. As soon as class ended, she immediately ran to find Daniel and Go. This trick was indeed effective. Just one injury allowed her to become close with Daniel and Go for a whole week. But after just 1 week, Daniel and Go cast her aside. From then on, the wounds on her body became more and more numerous. From short sleeves, she switched to long sleeves. From skirts, she switched to trousers. Finally, even her neck had wounds. The homeroom teacher noticed the abnormality and called her into the office to talk. She probably didn't reveal anything. When she returned to class, she glared at me and threatened, "If the teacher asks anything, don't say anything. If Daniel and Go ignores me because of this, I won't let you off." I nodded profusely. No, I won't say anything. Don't worry." Of course, I wouldn't say anything, because if she was willing, then she could happily endure it. Clara Tran. She was consumed by her infatuation with Daniel and Go, completely neglecting her studies. Her academic performance plummeted uncontrollably, from last in class to last in the entire grade. But she didn't care one bit. All she thought about was how to marry Daniel and Go to change her life. The scars on her body grew more numerous. Despite the hot weather, she wore long-sleeved shirts and autumn trousers, and her neck was always wrapped in a silk scarf year-round. The makeup on her face grew thicker and thicker, especially her lip color, just to hide her increasingly haggard and frightening face. Once, during a physical examination, she couldn't even run 100 meters, collapsing midway. Yet, she still didn't care. She slept more and more during class, to the point where I began to wonder if she fainted due to extreme weakness. It wasn't until the results of the first mock exam for the college entrance examination were released that Clara Tran finally looked up. When I heard my score, I had risen to the top of the entire grade, while she had fallen to the bottom. When the teacher announced the results, she quickly lifted her head. She hadn't had time to reapply her makeup. Her dark eye bags, sallow face, and pale lips were stark. When she looked at me, her eyes shifted from astonishment to suspicion, then to heavy resentment. "Why could you be first?" She always hated that I was better than her, so she immediately jumped up and loudly reported to the teacher. "I accused Diana Tran of cheating on the exam." The homeroom teacher frowned. "Do you have proof?" Clara Tran momentarily faltered, clenching her hands, then continued. "She cheated anyway. An investigation will reveal it." The teacher said, "We've all seen Diana Tran's efforts recently. She's always the first to arrive in class and the last to leave." The Ha family has also provided her with many study resources. Her rank has gradually increased with each exam. The teacher didn't name anyone, but was clearly targeting someone. Unlike some students who are almost at the college entrance exam but still haven't changed their bad habits, their performance has plummeted. This way, they won't pass college. Clara Tran realized she was the one being alluded to but didn't care. She even declared loudly in front of the whole class, "It's true that I'm bad at studying, but at least I don't cheat. Besides, I don't even plan to take the college entrance exam. Don't laugh behind my back. Who knows, someday you might even have to work for me." With that, she picked up her bag and left the classroom, a look on her face as if she had chosen a glorious path. Afterward, Clara Tran stubbornly complained about me to the school. Although the homeroom teacher tried to protect me, according to regulations, the school still launched an investigation. The final conclusion was that I had not cheated at all. Clara Tran was furious. "Don't get cocky. Wait until after the college entrance exam, and you'll know what suffering is." I knew exactly what she was referring to, and because I knew, I decided to no longer hide my abilities. I was confident in my academic performance. What I needed to do next was to preserve my life. With the Ha family, I was currently only valuable as a blood donor. But what if I had greater value to them? What if many people knew about me? Therefore, I had to make myself noticeable. Many people needed to know about me, so that if anything happened to me, everyone would immediately think of the Ha family. This would create reverse pressure on them. And Clara Tran's actions had helped me take the first step. Now, at least the entire school knew that there was a 12th grade student named Diana Tran who ranked first in the entire grade, was suspected of cheating, and then was cleared. I leveraged this momentum and immediately created a live stream account for a college entrance exam hotline with a 12th grade sister. The introduction read, "Diana Tran, a student sponsored by the Ha family, invites everyone to fight for the college entrance exam together. Outside of study hours, whenever I studied, I would turn on the live stream." Initially, many people watched just to gossip, spamming comments like, "Here's the cheater sister. She cheated too much, that's why she's top of the grade. Next time, go easy, top 10 is enough." Later, I decisively turned the camera to my exam papers when I studied. The attacking comments gradually disappeared. Although occasionally a few people would still say I was faking it, copying solutions, most had shifted to discussing academic knowledge. I usually spent time after finishing my work to read comments and answer some questions. Gradually, the viewership increased significantly. Through the comments, it was clear that many students from other schools also joined the live stream to study together. My account spread from person to person. As it grew more popular, I also became well known at school. Later, the school also learned about it. They were very supportive, even asking me to do press interviews. This was part of my plan. Therefore, in the very first sentence of the interview, I said, "Thank you to the Ha family for sponsoring me. I will study hard to repay them. But my goal doesn't stop there." I stated frankly, "My goal is to become the top scorer in the college entrance exam." Making such a bold declaration in front of a crowd is actually very taboo. Many people will watch you, waiting for you to stumble so they can mock you. As soon as the interview was published, the comments below the video were full of ridicule. "Doesn't he know how valuable the top scorer in the college entrance exam is here? Checking previous exam results, all ordinary scores, only first once and already so arrogant. Got it, creating a new path. Graduate and become a hot internet personality, even if hated, still famous." Many people didn't believe me, but it didn't matter. What I needed was public attention. Only when many people knew about me would the Ha family not easily act against me. Moreover, I was confident enough to achieve what I said. After the interview ended, the Ha family, for a rare time, contacted me. "You are Diana Tran, aren't you? Do you have time to come to our house for dinner this weekend?" I deliberately told Clara Tran about this. As soon as she heard, she became agitated. "You definitely have to go." I pretended to be puzzled. "Why? I feel like I'm bothering them a bit." She rolled her eyes for a moment, then whispered, "Just go once. What if they like you? In the future, you could be their daughter-in-law." She was afraid I would repeat the mistakes of my previous life. I lowered my head, embarrassed. "When you say that, I feel shy." This was my first visit to the Ha family's house since the last time. Mr. and Mrs. Ha were polite and courteous, always maintaining a moderate smile. "Which university do you plan to apply to?" I answered obediently. "National University of Law and Political Science." Their faces froze slightly. "Actually, a girl doesn't need to work so hard. After the exam, we will still sponsor you. If you encounter any difficulties, just come to us." My hand, holding food, remained steady, not trembling. "I am very grateful for the Ha family's help. That's why I want to repay you with my own abilities. Mr. and Mrs. Ha, please rest assured, I will never let you regret sponsoring me. Absolutely not." I spoke as if sincerely, pretending to return their kindness. But perhaps they didn't take my words to heart, only politely replying, "If you need any help, just say so. The Ha family will do its best." As I left the house, I heard the sound of wheelchair wheels behind me. Turning back, I saw Henry Ha sitting in a wheelchair, quietly looking at me in the courtyard. Since the Ha family sponsored me, he had rarely come to school. Initially, he was seen a few times a week, but later I heard he had dropped out entirely. This news once made Lisa Lamb in my class cry profusely for a whole period. Whether in my previous life or this one, Henry Ha and I had never had any contact, but if I couldn't change my fate this time, I would become his backup blood bag. Henry Ha said nothing, only watched me silently. His skin was so pale it was almost translucent. His eyes shifted from empty to pity. Perhaps he knew my future fate, but besides pity, he had no intention of sparing me. I bowed slightly, then turned and left. I continued live streaming my studies every day. The viewership grew steadily. Until one day, someone continuously gifted 10 rockets to my account and left a message. "It's been a year as promised, and it's time to come back." A chill ran down my spine. The account had just been created. No matter how much I dug, I couldn't find out who was behind it. That night, I had a nightmare. I dreamed of Daniel and Go coming for me with iron chains. "Naughty girl," I said, "1 year and you have to come back. Why did you run away? Now come home with me." His face suddenly transformed into a giant black hole, swallowing me whole. I woke up, my forehead drenched in cold sweat. That account never appeared in my live stream again after that message. In the second and third mock exams, I maintained my performance, continuing to rank first in the entire grade. No one doubted my academic achievements anymore. The number of live stream followers also increased significantly. As for Clara Tran, after her failed cheating accusation, she never returned to school. Daniel and Go, on the other hand, still came to school regularly as usual. His life showed no change. It was just that lately, he occasionally passed by my classroom. I tried to act oblivious, but whenever I turned around, our gazes would meet. He did nothing. On graduation photo day, Clara Tran, rarely seen, returned to school. In a short time, she had changed a lot, her hair styled in large waves, heavy makeup, dressed head to toe in designer brands, carrying a newly released limited edition Hermes bag. This ostentatious display of wealth truly made many envious. Many people gathered around her. "Clara, where did you buy this bag? My mom tried to order it for ages but couldn't get one. These shoes are absolutely gorgeous." Before I saw this bag cost 260,000 yuan, my mom couldn't even bring herself to buy it for me. Clara Tran was reveling in the spotlight of the compliments around her. Only I stood silently to the side, not approaching. But that seemed to displease Clara Tran. She pushed through the crowd and stepped in front of me. "Sister, so what if you're first? Even if you're first, you probably won't be able to buy a bag like mine someday." She deliberately lifted the Hermes bag in her hand, showing off. I was all too familiar with that bag. In my previous life, I had many Hermes bags, and on the day Clara Tran brought gasoline to die with me, I was carrying this very bag. At that time, she looked at the bag like she was going crazy. "Why are all the good things yours, sister? Why?" So today, she deliberately brought that bag, but I didn't care. What I noticed was that in the muggy June heat, Clara Tran was covered from head to toe, her neck wrapped in a silk scarf and wearing gloves. Because I knew there wasn't a single healthy spot left on her body. I looked at her with pity, which suddenly enraged Clara Tran. "What are you looking at? I'm richer than you, I live better than you. Why do I need your pity? Let me tell you, even if you pass the college entrance exam as the top scorer, just get ready to die. You're going to die soon, do you hear me?" She screamed like a madwoman. But now, I was no longer the ordinary student Diana Tran of yesteryear, but a bright hope with a radiant smile. When she lunged at me, the teachers and school administrators who were waiting nearby for the graduation photo immediately noticed her loss of control. The homeroom teacher immediately stepped forward to shield me. Other students ran to call security. Clara Tran was quickly subdued. When her emotions stabilized, she requested to take a graduation photo with the class. The homeroom teacher didn't refuse, only asking her to change into the uniform like everyone else short-sleeved shirt and skirt, but Clara Tran resolutely refused to take off her jacket. Therefore, she was not in the final graduation photo. On the day of the college entrance exam, she also did not appear in the exam room. She and I were assigned to the same room, and her seat was empty. The college entrance exam results were as expected. I was the top scorer nationwide. A student with average grades rising to become the top scorer. That was an extremely hot topic, attracting many reporters to interview me. In front of all the reporters, the first thing I said was, "Thank you to the Ha family." My grades were not actually the most brilliant, but because of the Ha family's support, I didn't have to worry about living expenses and could fully devote myself to my studies. Therefore, for today's achievement, I am most grateful to the Ha family. I also said that I would continue to share my study experience on my livestream account. All junior high students could contact me anytime. Although the impact this time was not too great, the title of top scorer in the college entrance exam still had considerable influence. I also continuously mentioned the Ha family in interviews. That was very positive publicity for them. Consequently, the Ha family's stock soared. At that very moment, the Ha family was negotiating a partnership with another enterprise. Under the wave of positive public opinion, the deal was quickly signed. Afterward, I also found an extremely famous Feng Shui master, asked him to examine my birth chart, and spread the news online. I have a special destiny. Good fortune will spread to those close to me. The wealthy, to a certain extent, become very superstitious. On the day of the celebration banquet, the Ha family called me. "My parents asked me to call you. Tonight, we invite you to attend the celebration dinner with our family." The caller was Henry Ha. His voice was clear and lifelike. I wasn't sure why they let Henry Ha call, but inviting me to the celebration dinner showed that they wouldn't turn me into a backup blood bag in the near future, because I was currently very prominent. My name generated far greater benefits. Compared to being a blood source, businessmen always choose the option with maximum benefit. That was a survival lesson I learned from my previous life, still useful in this life. But in the afternoon, Clara Tran, who had disappeared for a while, suddenly came to find me. She was still wearing long sleeves and long pants, covering her entire body. She carried a Hermes bag identical to the one I once had in my previous life, but today she wore no makeup. Her face was terrifyingly pale, and her neck, no longer wrapped in a scarf, was covered in white scars, almost no patch of healthy skin remaining. Outside, thunder and rain crashed, her hair was drenched, looking like nothing so much as a water-drowned female ghost. "Sister," she said, weeping, "I know I made a mistake, but I really have no other choice." Then she suddenly lunged straight at me. A heavy blow to my head with a stick sent me unconscious. Before losing consciousness, I saw Daniel Ngo step out from behind Clara Tran. Clara Tran was terrified, crying and pleading. "I've helped you bring her here, can I go?" "Daniel Ngo, I beg you, I beg you." Daniel Ngo's face was expressionless as he reached out and squeezed her neck tightly. As Clara Tran slowly writhed in pain from choking, a perverse pleasure appeared on Daniel Ngo's face. "You're not in a position to negotiate conditions." He pushed her aside forcefully and walked straight towards me. His hand touched my cheek, cold as a slithering snake, causing fear. "Diana, the year is up. It's time to come home." When I regained consciousness, I found myself back in the familiar, suffocating basement. I was so panicked I couldn't tell if this was my past life or the present. In my past life, it was in this very place that Daniel Ngo had imprisoned me like a pet, torturing and tormenting me, my wounds healing only to be reopened. Daniel Ngo particularly enjoyed the sight of fresh blood oozing from wounds. The smell of blood seemed to be his greatest nourishment. It was only when I cut off one of my own legs that I earned a chance to see the light again. I instinctively touched my leg, it was still intact. That made me realize this wasn't my past life. I was truly imprisoned again. Clara Tran was also here. She was like a madwoman, laughing and crying. Why? Why is the outcome still exactly like the previous life? Clearly, I was the one chosen this time. Is it because of you, sister? She suddenly lunged and squeezed my neck tightly. What did you do back then to have such a good life? Tell me. She squeezed very hard, I couldn't breathe. My face turned pale, each second stretching out like an eternity. Just as I was about to pass out from lack of oxygen, the basement door burst open. Daniel Ngo delivered a powerful kick, sending Clara Tran flying. She hit the wall and I heard a bone snap, probably a rib. The pain made her shriek miserably. Daniel Ngo showed no mercy, looking down at her coldly. "Who gave you permission to touch her?" Clara Tran was in too much pain to speak. Only agonizing groans filled the basement. Daniel Ngo walked closer to me, gently touching the bruise on my neck. "Does it hurt?" The memory made me instinctively recoil. I saw him about to clench his hand, but then he restrained himself and flashed a perfect, fake smile. Aren't you going to thank me? Without me, you'd probably have been choked to death. But I knew there were cameras in this basement. He must have been sitting in front of a screen, watching Clara Tran and me fight. It was a pity he didn't get to see my beautiful resistance, which was why he intervened just in time to prevent Clara Tran from killing me. I remained vigilant, looking at him with sharp eyes. He suddenly smiled. Indeed, I didn't guess wrong. You also remember everything from your past life, don't you? His words slithered down my spine like a poisonous snake. So the person who suddenly appeared in the livestream before was Daniel Ngo. He also remembered everything that had happened. He reached out and touched my leg. Your leg is still intact this time. Do you still plan to use it to bargain for your freedom? I still remembered the excruciating pain of cutting off my own leg. If I had to sacrifice myself again for freedom, I would still do it. It was just a pity that Daniel Ngo wouldn't give me that chance this time. He was just testing me. Seeing my silence and constant vigilance, he lifted my chin. No wonder you're CEO Tran, someone who could rise from nothing in a year, truly intelligent. Suddenly, he lifted me and placed me on his lap. We faced Clara Tran. In your past life, she burned you, yet you pushed me towards her. Did you want me to take revenge for you? At this, Clara Tran suddenly fell silent, her eyes filled with bitter hatred staring at me. So you deliberately let me get close to Daniel and go. Diana Tran, you are truly vicious. Even with her slow wits, Clara Tran must have realized who was truly responsible for her suffering. My throat still hurt from being squeezed, so my hoarse voice echoed strangely in the enclosed basement. Didn't you choose that path yourself? But Clara Tran went berserk, charging at me despite the pain. Why? Why did you live well in both lives? Why? But the outcome was still Daniel Ngo kicking her away again. Daniel Ngo leaned down and said to me, "Don't worry, this time I'll avenge you." Daniel Ngo's reincarnation was outside my plan. I also didn't know his purpose, so the only thing I could do right now was wait for the right moment. Clara Tran was kicked so hard this time she couldn't move, only her chest still heaving indicating she was alive. "She's still alive. Do you want to leave?" Daniel Ngo asked. Clara Tran struggled to lift her head. On her pale face, only her eyes still held a faint light. But immediately after, Daniel Ngo's words made those eyes darken instantly. "Only if you act like Diana and cut off one of your own legs." Clara Tran didn't have that courage. She just stared blankly at my leg, numb. Daniel Ngo's sinister laughter echoed. "Indeed, Diana is the most adorable. In her past life, just to leave me, she even cut off half of that leg." Clara Tran's eyes shifted from fear to resignation. Then she suddenly laughed loudly, a chilling, unsettling sound. "Why didn't you tell me? Why didn't you tell me?" Then her whole body slumped to the ground again, motionless. Daniel Ngo placed his hand on the leg I had cut off in my past life. "Last time, I spared you because of this leg. Now it's grown back. Do you want to cut it off again?" "Is cutting off one leg enough to leave?" I asked. He laughed, the sound rising from low to high. "Diana still wants to leave me, doesn't she?" "Your request I will naturally satisfy, but this time I want both legs. How will you crawl out then?" Losing both legs meant completely losing the ability to escape. In my previous life, after I cut off one leg, I was in a coma for a week due to the pain. If it were both legs this time, I wasn't even sure I could endure it. But I was unwilling to be imprisoned again. If it was a bad outcome anyway, I would take a gamble. "Do you like me?" I asked him. Daniel Ngo narrowed his eyes, as if finding the question amusing. "What if I do?" I slowly pulled up my shirt. In Daniel Ngo's eyes, there was no desire, only thought, perhaps trying to figure out what emotion to have in this situation, because he lacked the 7 basic emotions. All his reactions were imitations and learned. I didn't believe he did it out of love for me. I just needed him to be distracted for that moment. I used the fastest speed to stab the hairpin in my hand into his throat. Blood immediately gushed out like a fountain. I intended to stab deeper, but Daniel Ngo had already thrown me to the ground. Ignoring the profusely flowing blood, he raised his foot and stomped hard on my ribs. "Naughty Diana." The incredible force crushed my ribs. I screamed in pain. He pulled the hairpin out of his neck, leaned down, and used the sharp tip to draw on my face. "Now I want to draw on this face." "What do you plan to draw?" I tried to stay calm. "Diana is very much like a sunflower." Then the tip of the hairpin plunged deep into my cheek. I could even hear the tearing sound of flesh, one stab after another. I cried out in agony. Clara Tran, lying there, seemed to stir faintly but then fell silent and motionless again. Blood from Daniel Ngo's neck dripped onto my face, mixing with my own flowing blood, sticky and repulsive, but it only excited him more. Or should I just kill you and make you a specimen? That way you can be with me forever. The tip of the hairpin slid down, aiming for my carotid artery. I felt it clearly piercing into my bloodstream. I knew Daniel Ngo wasn't bluffing. If he intended to kill, no one would survive, just as I was preparing to accept death. Crash, a chair was smashed hard into Daniel Ngo's head. Blood gushed from his forehead. He staggered and fell to one side. Clara Tran was panting, holding the chair. "This time I saved you, sister." Before she could finish, Daniel Ngo suddenly opened his eyes, a monstrous smile on his lips. Too early to celebrate. Then, dodging Clara Tran's next blow, he swung his arm and violently smashed the chair into her head. Her head was caved in. Daniel Ngo didn't stop, hitting her repeatedly. Clara Tran's head was shattered, her brain and blood mixed and spilled all over the floor. She lay motionless, dead. Daniel Ngo again displayed a cruel smile, then turned to me. "You saw she was about to hit me and you didn't warn me, did you?" Daniel Ngo, like a genetic monster, seemed to feel no pain. No injuries slowed him down. His face, shirt, and arms were stained red with blood, looking like a demon from hell approaching me. "Now I've avenged you, so it's your turn." He squeezed my neck tightly. I struggled wildly, hitting him in every way I could, even trying to claw at the wound on his neck. Blood ran down my hands, but he didn't loosen his grip. As I was about to pass out from lack of oxygen, the basement door suddenly burst open. I saw someone pushing a wheelchair in. On the wheelchair was Henry Ha. From behind him, many bodyguards rushed in, quickly subduing Daniel Ngo. His face remained calm, only a hint of regret that he hadn't managed to kill me. When I woke up, I found myself in a hospital, my nose filled with the smell of disinfectant, the sound of machinery operating beside my ear. My body was riddled with tubes, blood being drawn from me. The other end of the machine was connected to Henry Ha. He silently watched me. Henry's parents stood by the hospital bed, telling me, "The Ha family has given you too much, and now they've even saved your life. It's time to repay the favor." Immediately after, I saw the machine's operating speed suddenly increase, blood flowing from my body at a dizzying rate. My body quickly shriveled up like a mummy. I was unwilling to end like this, desperately screaming and struggling. Then I felt a cold hand placed on my forehead. A voice echoed in my ear, "Calm down." I jolted awake. The scene was still the hospital, only my body was no longer riddled with tubes, and there were no machines beside the bed. In the hospital room, there was only Henry Ha. He sat in his wheelchair, a bodyguard behind him. I gradually became lucid. It was just a nightmare, I wasn't dead. My ribs were broken and I couldn't move, so I had to stay in the hospital for a week of recuperation. That week, Henry Ha visited almost every day, saying nothing, just sitting by my bed for 10 minutes then leaving. I couldn't speak either. The doctor said it was an emergency reaction, and it would be fine over time. Finally, in the second week, I could speak again. "What do you want?" I asked. I didn't think he saved me out of love. I was sure he had an agenda. Henry Ha still sat in his wheelchair, his gaze calm, but he answered off topic. "Daniel Ngo is dead." I frowned. That was too sudden and something felt wrong. Daniel Ngo's background was not ordinary, his genes were also different. Plus the fact that he was also reincarnated with so many factors, how could he die so easily? But Henry Ha also had no reason to lie to me. He then said, "What my parents want to do, I don't agree. I won't let you be my backup blood bag." "So what are the conditions?" I asked. Henry Ha's lips curled slightly, and his eyes finally flashed with a hint of expression. "I like to negotiate with intelligent people. I need you to use your memory and wisdom to help me gain power in the Ha family." Outwardly, the Ha family only had one son, Henry Ha. But in recent years, as Henry Ha's health deteriorated, Mr. Ha seemed to have secretly cultivated an illegitimate son. They wouldn't abandon Henry Ha's life, but at most, they would just keep him alive. All the core industries of Ha Group would not let him touch. But what Henry Ha wanted was never just to survive. I had no choice either. Henry Ha didn't explicitly state the consequences if I refused, but the current situation clearly showed I was the fish, and he was the knife. I could only agree, but it didn't matter. I had to live first and then deal with things later. Henry Ha and I reached an agreement. He promised me that I only needed to help him gain power within Ha Group. And so, many years later, by the side of the powerful man in the wheelchair, Henry Ha, I was always there. He was very intelligent with outstanding abilities. With my full assistance, he finally gained access to the core power of Ha Group. In the vice president's office, before the large glass window, Henry Ha sat in his wheelchair, looking down at the bustling traffic below. I said. What you wanted, I have helped you achieve. Henry Ha took my hand, his voice still calm. During this time, outsiders have been speculating about the relationship between me and you. In that case, let's get married. A woman appearing beside a successful man. Outsiders never think she is a helper or even a guide. They only assume she is a lover, a wife. There's no denying that the position of Mrs. Ha is attractive enough, capable of achieving many things. But I always understood a principle. What is obtained by relying on others means living one's whole life by that person's breath. Loss or gain is determined by them. That's not what I want, and my goal has never stopped there. I smiled, quietly withdrawing my hand from his. CEO Ha, you exaggerate. The person suitable for you is definitely someone else. If you don't want to, I won't force you, he said. But until you meet the person you love, please stay with me for a few more years, okay? How long are a few years? As Henry Ha's status grew higher, I had long guessed that he wouldn't easily let me leave because I knew too many of his secrets. But it didn't matter. For me, any change was unimportant. It was just that the path to my goal had changed. I continued to stay by Henry Ha's side, watching him, without a trace of emotion, force his father to abdicate so he could sit in the highest position of the conglomerate. Of course, the price was that his bodily functions deteriorated more and more. Every day, he had to take many medications to maintain normal activity. Every time in the middle of the night he suffered from illness and needed urgent medication, it was always me who brought the medicine to his lips, repeating it again and again. How many times had I saved his life in critical moments? For 2 years, I didn't complain a single word. I had become the person he trusted most. Every night, the only person allowed to stay and watch over him was me. Then another 3 years passed. Altogether, I had been with Henry Ha for 12 years. A very long time, truly very long. Today, when Henry Ha once again needed emergency medication, I walked to his bedside. Years of being tormented by illness and mental exhaustion had aged his body rapidly, his hair graying prematurely. The man who once dominated the world outside was now curled up on the bed, gasping for breath, his entire body convulsing, waiting only for the medicine in my hand to save his life. Seeing me hesitate to give him the medicine, Henry Ha opened his eyes and looked at me. Your antidote is still in my hands. His control over me wasn't just through promises. Every month, he would have a doctor inject me with a drug, and only he had the antidote. If I betrayed him, the only outcome was death. I smiled and handed him the medicine. Director Ha is overthinking. Henry Ha hurriedly swallowed the medicine, then leaned against the headboard to rest. I continued talking as usual. It's been 12 years since I've been by your side, hasn't it? Normally, I still called him Director Ha, but this time I called him Henry Ha directly, which made him open his eyes and look at me. It's been long enough, Henry Ha. I also want to live my own life. Fear suddenly appeared in Henry Ha's eyes. He tried to speak but then coughed up a mouthful of black blood and began to convulse violently. He struggled to utter each word. Diana Tran, if I die, what about your antidote? I watched him gasping for air, blood filling his mouth. 12 years, do you think I haven't made any progress at all? When you tried to control me, I also gradually found ways to escape that control. The difference is that as time passed, you thought I couldn't leave anymore and began to relax your vigilance. But I never gave up the idea of leaving. Henry Ha's chest heaved. He whispered, I've given you quite a lot. What exactly are you still not satisfied with? Indeed, quite a lot. I nodded. These past years of luxurious living were all thanks to you, but without you, I could still have achieved them. The problem is, I've said it before, I never live on anyone else's pity. You always needed to control me through manipulation. Now that you're dying, don't try to portray yourself as a good person anymore. Henry Ha coughed up blood again, his breath growing weaker. You kill me, and you won't escape either. Ha Group will never be yours. Do you think I would do something without preparation? I clapped my hands, and a young man walked into the room from outside. What if the suitable heir isn't me? Jason Ha stood beside me. Mr. Ha was originally quite promiscuous. It was said he had more than one illegitimate child. The illegitimate son Mr. Ha had already arranged within the group to replace Henry Ha, and take over Ha Group had long been eliminated by Henry Ha. But who said Mr. Ha only had one illegitimate child? In family power struggles, who doesn't step on others' corpses to climb higher? If Henry Ha could do it back then, why couldn't Jason Ha do it now? So Henry Ha died. As long as Jason Ha remained, no trouble would be linked to me. And Jason Ha, carrying the Ha family bloodline, could legitimately inherit the conglomerate. As for my antidote, over many years, I had secretly commissioned someone to research and develop an antidote long ago. Of course, only I knew the pain and torment during that process. My arms were covered in needle marks from injections, but fortunately, I finally overcame it. That was the result of 12 years of silent calculation. The medicine I had just given Henry Ha was not the emergency medicine he usually used, but just an ordinary drug. Therefore, Henry Ha suffered a seizure and died of complications. No matter how the investigation was conducted, the final conclusion would only be sudden death due to underlying illness. Even if anyone suspected something, all traces would only lead to Jason Ha, an internal family power struggle completely unrelated to me. So when he saw Jason Ha appear, Henry Ha's face immediately turned pale, his last breath finally giving out. HMPH, Diana Tran, you are truly wicked. Henry Ha died. Leveraging the many years spent by Henry Ha's side, utilizing all the resources and connections I had accumulated, Jason Ha quickly rose to the central position of Ha Group. However, the true manipulator behind everything was me. He was merely a puppet to silence the world. Everything I desired finally fell neatly into my hands. Epilogue 24. Mr. Ha had more than one illegitimate child, and among them, the smartest and most capable one had long been eliminated by Henry Ha. Before finding Jason Ha, I had contacted another illegitimate son. Unfortunately, his birth mother was too greedy, raising her son without knowing moderation, both covetous of money and self-proclaimed intelligent. Such a person was not the type I needed. Afterward, I discovered the existence of Jason Ha. The first time I met him, he looked no different from a stray dog being severely beaten in an abandoned apartment complex. I yelled, "I've called the police." Only then did the group of people leave, leaving Jason Ha covered in bruises. But even when beaten like that, he maintained a high level of vigilance, staring at me with hateful eyes. Taming a stray dog takes time, but once tamed, they will be loyal forever. That was the type of puppet I needed. Jason Ha grew up in a harsh environment, making him very difficult to approach. Even with no money in his pocket, he bluntly refused my offers of a house and a car. I patiently pursued him for nearly half a year without finding a breakthrough. Until one rare day, he actively called me to borrow money. "I don't know why you're following me, but I need 5 million. If you give it to me, you can tell me to do anything you want afterward." I didn't hesitate to transfer the money immediately. Only then did I learn that his grandmother was ill and needed money urgently. The hospital doctors refused to operate. Before Jason Ha could even ask, I had already contacted a better hospital, arranged a transfer, and invited the chief surgeon to operate on his grandmother. It wasn't until his grandmother was wheeled out of the operating room that Jason Ha finally breathed a sigh of relief. "What do you want me to do?" he asked. His ears were flushed red like a child's, making me truly feel his youth. He was only 19 years old. That stray dog seemed to truly trust me now. I sighed, half joking. "First, for the next few years, I'll send you abroad to study. I'll make time to visit. A puppet also needs to be gilded. Otherwise, if his mind is empty, he can't play with me." I promised to take good care of his grandmother during his studies abroad. That's what made Jason Ha feel at ease leaving the country. At the same time, I remained by Henry Ha's side, silently consolidating my own power. Waiting for the opportunity to arise, I always had patience and believed that the opportunity would come sooner or later. Finally, I had this day free from all shackles, holding absolute power in my hands. But even now, there's something that bothers me. For example, Jason Ha has no interest in business at all. The most common thing he says to me is, "Can I not come to the company tomorrow?" "No," I replied. Followed by his sulking face, "Yeah,